Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 4012. Today's date is April 20, 2026. It's been almost like night at exactly 10:07 p.m. All right, let's just jump into the question. Let's go. All right, the question is, how will I avoid harmful community farming? Okay. First of all, what exactly is this question, and why am I asking this question to myself? Okay, so basically, this thing, I wanted to build an app called My Artifact app. What exactly is this app? So this app is a kind of like a simply like a you wrote the diary every single day. Okay, yeah. Instead of writing, what if you could record your diary? Like basically, is this thing na? Ki my app is a kind of like a solving that thing, like a kind of like a make it general, kind of like a make it more accessible or make it more kind of like a convenient. Okay, like in when you write the diary, you have a lot of constraint regarding about a lot of things. Like when you think, the way that you thought and the way that you write is a kind of like a far more difference. You cannot write as fast as you think. No, you cannot. Okay, yeah. Also, is this thing writing kind of like a makes more little bit of complicated. Okay, yeah. So basically, this thing when we kind of like a something record our voices, it might be kind of like even more helpful. Okay, yeah. The stuff that you are kind of like listening right now, this is my artifact. Okay, this is my legitly this is my artifact episode. I am doing this thing for almost like a decade, almost like a decade, 11 year. I'm kind of like doing this thing every single day. Because of this thing, it adds so much amount of value inside of me. It kind of like a simply that key. It just like it is so much. Yeah, I don't know how do I supposed to explain. I already explained regarding about that. Okay, yeah. Now because of the value that I'm getting from this artifact, I decided that I should supposed to be make a app so that people should supposed to be record their artifact. Okay, yeah. Now, basically, my app is a kind of like a somewhat something YouTube. Okay, yeah. In the YouTube, people are kind of like upload their video. Other people will kind of watch your video. It's kind of like a something same, but audio based. Okay, yeah. Like people kind of like a record their artifact, audio artifact. Okay, yeah. They would supposed to be share those artifact to the people. Okay, yeah. People will gonna listen. There is a one thing that I'm providing, privacy. Privacy is a kind of like a very much essential in my application. User will not gonna know that key who is artifact they are kind of like listening. They are kind of like a getting the username as a kind of like a random username, like a Jackson 43 or 1194 or whatever it is. Okay, yeah. They will not gonna see the real person or things and that. Okay. By the way, I already mentioned regarding about my app in detail regarding about this thing. Okay. In this particular artifact, I will kind of like a mention regarding about the kind of like asking this question. Okay, like basically how will I kind of like avoid the harmful community forming. Okay, first of all, what is exactly harmful community and why does it kind of like a bother me a lot, or why does it kind of like a matter me a lot. Okay, so basically what exactly happened. Okay, yeah. Trolling, let's take a kind of like a trolling. Okay, yeah. In social media platform, people are troll each other. Why does people are actually troll each other? Why is that? Because it is kind of like a far more easier to do. Let me kind of like a give you simple more example. When we live the real life, like when we live the life, okay, yeah, giving the compliment is far more difficult, but giving the criticism is far more easy, right? Yeah. And also is this thing that key when we are kind of like a group of people. Okay, yeah. So compliment will gonna happen very less and criticism happen very more when we are kind of like a doing this in community or any kind of like a social gathering and things and that. So that's why social media platform usually trolling is actually happen very easily. Okay, yeah. Another thing, okay, is the thing that ki somewhat something trolling is right, and somewhat something trolling is wrong too. Okay, yeah. Let me kind of like a somebody. There is a kind of like a two side of it. Okay, yeah. It depends upon who is actually trolling and how much it kind of like affect to the people. Okay, yeah. Now let me tell you one thing. Social media platform like a YouTube and Instagram, the content that they are kind of like getting over there are far more refined. But in my application, Artifact, the content does not refine. It's a raw, unprocessed, unfiltered thought process. Okay, yeah. There is no refinement. There is no one kind of like editing what would I supposed to say, or there is no one kind of like giving me script that what do I supposed to say. No. I'm just kind of like a saying in my thought. I'm kind of like a printing it like a blunt out, and it kind of like a print all my audio artifact. Okay. So basically, when I'm kind of like doing this unfiltered, higher possible chance that key trolling would gonna happen very easily. Why? Because I might gonna make mistake, or my kind of like a thought process does not right, or if I'm talking very stupid shit that does not really like right. Okay, yeah. And this actually happened. Like basically, most of time my artifact are kind of like just a stupid shit. I'm talking just kind of like a shit. Okay, yeah. So this is what kind of like assembly happened. Okay, that is true because of that key we are human, and at the beginning we are just a thoughts, and thoughts are really messy. It's unclear, it's cluttered and things and that. So there is a higher possible chances that key trolling would gonna happen very easily. Okay, yeah. So how do I supposed to kind of like make sure that trolling will not gonna happen? The kind of like a bad community of the people will not gonna happen, or like basically because of the trolling, the people who are they will not gonna affected by that. Okay, yeah. So there are a couple of things that I have to be figured out. Okay, first of all, trolling usually happen the people who are kind of like doing this trolling, they are very coward people. Yeah, they are really coward people. They are kind of like hide their faces and they are kind of like talking shit and things and that. Okay, like I would not gonna criticize and things and that trolling is a kind of like a somewhat something is right and wrong. Okay, yeah. Like I consider that ki trolling is actually happened. For most of people it's kind of like a wrong. It's somewhat something is wrong, it is right. Like there is a kind of like a two side. Okay, somewhat something trolling happened is meant for right reason, somewhat something trolling happened for wrong reason too. Okay, yeah. So there is a kind of like a different way. Okay, yeah. But how do I supposed to make sure that ki my platform would be kind of like a much more safer place, so that people should supposed to be express their thought with freely. Okay, yeah, with thought process and things and that. Okay, so how do I supposed to do that? Okay, first of all is that ki obviously every person who record the artifact, that particular person is not a kind of like a something like his thought process is very much refined. Definitely not. He will gonna talk shit. He or she will gonna talk shit. Like that is very much common. Okay, yeah. In the beginning, it is very much common to kind of like somebody talking shit means what? Like a kind of like a something is this thing na ki particular person might gonna say is this thing that ki how do you supposed to handle the money. Let's just say a kind of like a somebody that ki 17-year-old person who kind of like a recording artifact regarding about how should you supposed to save money, and he was kind of like a giving the kind of like a something about that he, you should supposed to save money on this or that, or maybe something that, or maybe kind of like a whatever. Okay, yeah. That is completely like a unfiltered or completely wrong or completely like a completely wrong advice. Okay, yeah. So this is kind of like a simply very wrong, or maybe something like that ki there is a one particular person who kind of like a artifact regarding about that ki how should you supposed to do a sex, or every time you have to do a sex with a kind of like multiple people, things and that you will kind of like get really good experience and things and that. So basically this is kind of like somewhat something really wrong. Okay, yeah. Wrong means like that is kind of like a thing that na ki it's not right. Okay, yeah. But how do I supposed to verify what is actually right and what is actually wrong? Okay, what exactly is this thing? Okay, so let me kind of like simply give you understanding. Okay, yeah. So every artifact is actually judged by two methodology. Okay, yeah. 70-30%. Okay, yeah. 70% of the artifact is actually judged by the people. 30% of the artifact is actually judged by the algorithm, means Adam. Adam is the algorithm. The name of my algorithm is Adam. Okay, yeah. So 30% actually judged by the Adam, 70% actually judged by the people. Now let's talk about the people. How does people will gonna judge the artifact? Okay, yeah. So basically this thing, people will kind of like a listen artifact. Okay, yeah, regarding about what is actually this thing and that and that. Okay, yeah. 10 out of maybe kind of like assembly 6 people will kind of like a listen. Some people will kind of like assembly not gonna listen for long period of time. Okay, they will kind of like a skip it in between. Okay, yeah. Then another thing is that key when they listen entirely. Okay, yeah, like basically this thing, the score like basically every artifact episode is actually kind of like a have score based system. Okay, yeah. Score based system means what? Let's take a kind of like a 30% is actually score determined by the Adam, 70% is actually score determined by the people. Okay, yeah. Now let's talk about the 70%. So in that 70%, let's take 70 म्हणजे 100%, and in that like a in that like that's in that 70%. Okay, yeah, it kind of like a categorize in kind of like a different like how many likes it get, how many dislike it get, how many watch time duration it gets. Okay, yeah, from this point of perspective. Okay, yeah. Now let me tell you one thing, mostly is actually focus on like and dislike. Watch time duration is a kind of like a somewhat something it will gonna add, but specifically like and dislike, this is kind of like a something very much essential. Okay, yeah. Now there is also another thing is that okay, yeah, people will gonna like, people will gonna dislike, some people will gonna do not do anything at all. Okay, yeah. So in that particular period of time, watch time would be a kind of like a some source too. At this time I don't really have any kind of like a judgmental system regarding about how do I supposed to do that, but this is how I supposed to think. Like it's a kind of like a raw thought process. I have to figure it out. I'm not really building right now algorithm. I'm kind of like a building an application. Okay, but sooner or later I will kind of like decide that key how that 70% will kind of like determine that score. Okay, yeah. Now let's talk about the 30% that Adam will kind of like a judge. Okay, yeah, Adam means algorithm. So basically how does artifact will gonna judge by the Adam? Adam is a AI. Okay, AI powered kind of like a things. What will gonna happen? User will kind of like record the artifact. Whatever it says, it convert into the kind of like a simply text. Okay, yeah, subtitles. Now that subtitle, Adam read that entire subtitle and kind of like a verify that key what is exactly tone, what is exactly tone of that artifact, what is exactly the message of the artifact, what is exactly is this thing that key impact on the people. Okay, yeah. There are a couple of kind of like somebody categorize that key like this is artifact regarding about what kind of like somebody vibe it create, and it also understand that key how much it impact on people. Okay, yeah, good impact or bad impact and things and that. Also whatever that particular person says, is it legit right or wrong? Okay, obviously most of time is kind of like something wrong, but how much wrong? Okay, yeah, it also understand that thing, how much kind of like somebody is this thing that key is this particular person is actually funny or execute very properly or things and that. Adam try to kind of like somebody do the very reverse engineering regarding about that key how much it will gonna impact on the people, good impact or bad impact or things and that. And from that senses, Adam kind of like give them a score regarding about 10 out of how much it is. Okay, yeah, like basically Adam gives score 10 out of 7, and kind of like a 70% score has to depend on people. It kind of like a get 10 out of maybe kind of like a maybe 8. So regarding about combine that score and it will get that kind of like some score maybe 10 out of maybe 8 or maybe 7.5 or things and that. So this is kind of like a score that every artifact get. Okay, yeah. And this score is kind of like a simply written on that artifact tab. Okay, yeah, like basically how much score it get. Okay, like basically what is actually the UI? The UI is that key the particular kind of like a username. Okay, there is a kind of like a playhead. Okay, yeah, like you can play. There is a kind of like a artifact we're gonna play. How many likes? Okay, how many dislike, and as also the score. Okay, that is the score. This is kind of like a very much essential. Okay, score. From that score, people will understand that key is this artifact is really legit or not. Okay, yeah, they will not gonna listen such an artifact which is kind of like a having less of score, like a less than 5 score and things and that and that. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing na ki the people who kind of like a listen such an artifact, they will kind of like somebody verify that they will kind of like a listen really good artifact na. Why they will kind of like a try to listen such a crappy artifact. And also is this thing regarding about the score, if you have a higher score, it will higher chances to recommend more. It has a kind of like a lower score, it will kind of like a lower chances to recommend less people. Okay, so this is what kind of like a algorithm does to kind of like a prevent, like a to kind of like a prevent trolling before it started. Okay, before it started. Now this is kind of like something the app does. Now also is this thing, my application, every artifact, people can comment. Okay, yeah, people can comment, but it's not the kind of like a typical comment. Okay, yeah, you cannot type anything. There is no type. Okay, yeah, like basically is this thing, if you wanted to comment in any kind of like a artifact, there is a only one thing will gonna happen when you read the entire artifact, then and only then that comment button is appear to you. Okay, yeah, and when you press that comment button, you cannot able to be type, you can literally record your comment. Okay, like you could say that ki I don't really agree with your kind of like a statement or things and that and that. Why does I am not letting people to kind of like a type? Because when we type, it is kind of like a very convenient, we could kind of like a talk about something that is not really good, like we could type like that, like a fucker, motherfucker, things and that you are not really right and stuff. Like basically when we type na, we are typing like a so many bad words that we don't even mean it. Okay, yeah, but when we record, we realize that ki how much really important our word, and we kind of like somebody using our word very precisely. It's not really that ki we will not gonna kind of like criticize, but we will gonna criticize it in very soft language when we record. Okay, yeah, so this is how you kind of like somebody record that. It doesn't really feel like that ki impact on person. Okay, yeah, it kind of like a feel like that ki impact on kind of like somebody on specific artifact that you mention and things and that and that. Okay, so this is how I kind of like making sure that the trolling will gonna happen less, or maybe kind of like a somebody stop before it kind of like a somebody creates and things and that and that. So this is how I will kind of like somebody try to establish to kind of like avoid the harmful community forming and things and that and that. Okay, there is also another thing too. Okay, yeah, let me kind of like tell you something. Okay, yeah, you cannot search, like there is a search button in my app. Okay, yeah, but you cannot able to be search a profile or person or anything at all. Let's just say you kind of like somebody listen a artifact regarding about something, and that artifact belong to the username Jackson43. Okay, yeah, now you wanted to like hear it back. Okay, yeah, so basically you are trying to search Jackson42. There is no will gonna search, nothing really happened. Jackson42, you cannot able to search profile name. But why? Okay, why is that? Because of that na ki when you kind of like simply try to search about specific person, it is more likely to have a kind of like a target. Like let me tell you one thing, what exactly is this thing. I want that ki people should supposed to be listen the artifact and kind of like simply get the information as much as it. If you really like a particular person, you can save that artifact. There is a kind of like a save button, you can save the artifact, but you cannot able to be search. Because when you search the people name or username, then what will gonna happen? You are kind of like consciously try to attack on that particular person, or you are consciously try to stalk that particular person. Like basically adding that search filter to the username there is no value will gonna add. Okay, yeah. Instead of that, if you wanted to search, you might gonna search about kind of like a somebody that key, like a whatever, like a filmmaking, economics, sad, love relationship. People are actually talk about so many stuff. Okay, yeah. Or maybe like instead of typing, I would have a kind of like a only particular section of people who are kind of like a different talking about this. These are section are actually available, like basically in YouTube platform. You could able to be kind of like a click on music podcast or things and that. This would be kind of like a things. Okay, instead of search, it would be kind of like a much more easier. Okay, yeah. Regarding about searching the username, right now I think that I shouldn't supposed to be allow user to search other user. Okay, yeah. But this is just my thought process at the moment. I don't know what will gonna happen in the future, because sometime na it might like there are a lot of things are responsible. Okay, yeah. Like I think that na I shouldn't supposed to be allow user to kind of like a search, but might be there is a kind of like a somebody hidden possible chances that it would be kind of like a really essential. I have to maintain the privacy, but try to provide all those feature with kind of like a less kind of like a trolling and things and that to make it my application, make it my platform is much more safer place to people record and things and that. Also is this thing, government will gonna intervene in my application. Okay, government doesn't really want that key. They should supposed to be kind of like somebody use such a word and things and that, like a fuck motherfucker or things and that. So obviously these are filler words would be kind of like somebody removed by algorithm. Okay, by Adam. Okay, uh, it's like a basically it depends on if the government asks me to. Okay, if the government not letting me, like government are allow me to use such a word, then yeah, I would gonna do this thing, I would gonna allow. Also there are multiple things too. Okay, I don't want to go against the government. Okay, if the government wants that key this particular person who kind of like a talking shit about our prime minister and things and that you wanted to remove, you have to remove those things. I will freeze those account too. Okay, basically is this thing na ki usually is this thing, I build this platform to improve our personality instead of criticizing other and things and that it is not really good. Like a basically like sometimes I kind of like a thing that I'm kind of like a giving them a kind of like a some freedom to kind of like a self expression and things and that, but in another word I am not letting them to kind of like a criticize other. That is also not really right. Yeah, I knew that, but still is this thing that ki like basically is this thing, if the government wants me to block your account if you kind of like a criticizing your prime minister or things and that, then I don't have any choice. I have to do that. I have to listen those government because I am providing the services on that country. So I have to listen that government what they will gonna say, but still try to figure it out that key. Like basically, I will gonna making sure that key this situation will not gonna happen. Okay, yeah. Criticism, some criticism about somebody. Like let me tell you one thing now, why do I have this Adam? Why do I have kind of like that Adam? 30% of the every artifact is actually judged by the Adam. Why is that? Because of that, na people are kind of like a diluted. Okay, diluted means what? Like basically, is this thing, na we don't really understand what is actually right and what is actually wrong. Our right and wrong statement is actually depend upon how many people are considered is right, then we consider that is a right. When everyone kind of like thinks it is wrong, then we actually think it is wrong. Okay, so this is how we kind of like decide. But Adam does not think like that way. Adam is a kind of like an algorithm, AI algorithm. Adam is a kind of like a somebody understand how it gonna impact on people. Okay, and from that thing it kind of like a give the score. Like example is this thing, na hate speeches are kind of like a really good for listening, and so many people are kind of like a somebody giving them like button and things and that algorithm might gonna think okay this might be really good, but it's a hate speeches, just kind of like a wrap up with the kind of like a really good communication. Okay, like a basically a kind of like a Hitler kind of like a giving the speech, whose speeches is kind of like a really like a inspiring and things and that, but in the end this is wrong, right? So this is what I'm trying to tell you, is this thing that na ki, that's why Adam is a kind of like a simply determine that is this particular person is legit or not. Okay, another thing is that if you are the particular person, you get flag all the time. Flag means what? Like basically is this thing, if the user, okay, flag is a kind of like a simply is this thing that key only the humans could able to be provide the flag, not Adam. Adam have only have a kind of like authority to give the score regarding about only in 30%. Okay, but the people, the 70% of the kind of like assembly artifact will judged by the humans. Human will have a kind of like assembly, they could supposed to be report the artifact, like this artifact is not really good, so they would supposed to be give the flag. Okay, so like basically is this thing, what will gonna happen from that flag or from that dislike, you will kind of like a remove, you will kind of like a decrease the score of your artifact. When you decrease the score of the artifact, obviously it will have kind of like a very less kind of like a recommendation to the people, right? One of the another thing is that na ki if your profile, every artifact that you recorded, every artifact is kind of like a getting the flag and things and that, higher possibility chance that ki your entire profile will have a kind of like a very less exposure or maybe less of that. Okay, yeah, so this would be kind of like a things. Okay, so okay, and also another thing na, there is also another thing will gonna happen when you record the artifact na, might be you are not allowed to record artifact, or maybe because of that key, whenever you kind of like record the artifact, you are talk shit, people are kind of like giving you flag or dislike or things and that. Okay, yeah, so probably is this thing, your account might gonna froze for couple of day or couple of week if you just being continue things and that. I probably kind of like give them a particular kind of like assembly strike. Okay, yeah, if you get that strike, 3 strike probably, then your kind of like account will kind of like a froze and things. Your account will not gonna block. Account only and only block when you can block or government decide that block your profile, then it will gonna happen. Okay, yeah, but rest of them your account will not gonna block. Your account will kind of like assembly that key kind of like assembly recommend less or kind of like a froze for a particular period of time. This will gonna happen. Okay, yeah, so basically is this thing na, this is like why am I kind of like assembly providing that much kind of like a things, because of that na ki artifact is a kind of like a very easy to create, like literally, like what does it really require? Nothing na. Like basically if you wanted to create a YouTube video, you need to know about the recording, you need to know about editing, you need to know about how to speak, you need to know about the scripting and whatnot. Okay, yeah, but artifact is a very easy to do it. Like basically I just had a dinner, right now I'm walking and recording artifact. Okay, yeah, so basically it's very convenient to record artifact, and when things are become very much convenient, things are become very not good, okay, not right or not better. Okay, so this is actually happened, it actually happened. Okay, yeah, so that's why I am try to be making sure that key a user will gonna get protected, the app will gonna protected, they will kind of like assembly is this thing that na ki I will make sure that ki my application will not gonna kind of like impact wrong to the society. Okay, yeah, because my only goal, like let me tell you one thing na, my goal is to kind of like a people should supposed to be record artifact, kind of like a try to connect with themselves, try to kind of like understand who you are, what you are. This is kind of like things I want to people to record artifact instead of listen artifact. Okay, yeah, if you're kind of like a recording artifact na, you will improve yourself much more better in every possible way. Okay, yeah, just be use a kind of like a right way to talk. Like basically there is a kind of like always been a kind of like an angel inside of us. Even if you are evil, still you have an angel inside of us. Like basically I think that na ki angel and evil are live inside of us. We cannot be an angel or we cannot be a evil. No, definitely not. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing na, ki artifact is kind of like a letting that angel express more and try to kind of like assembly that evilness have to be little bit less. Okay, yeah, because this is what kind of like a things that Okay, so that's what I'm trying to tell you. But still, I do understand that key. It's not just an app will decide what does people do, what does people will not. I will try to control, but still there is a lot of things I might gonna fail. I might gonna kind of like something will gonna something wrong happen. Okay, yeah. Because the only thing actually happen is because I'm kind of like a letting giving them kind of like somebody that allow them to freely express everything that they want, and they would utilize things for very wrong purposes. Like example as a Twitter. Okay, yeah. Like in the Twitter you cannot able to be kind of like a share such a explicit images or any kind of like a stuff. But right now in the Twitter, since the Elon Musk actually bought the Twitter, convert them into the X, and letting them people to kind of like assembly said anything that they want. Since then that Twitter is actually became the like literally porn site. Okay, yeah. Like people are kind of like uploading their explicit video, literally porn they upload. Literally they could upload the porn in the Twitter. I don't want my platform kind of like that way, because Twitter is a kind of like a very easy, people should supposed to be very easy to kind of like a tweet and things and that. Yeah, it's kind of like that. Okay, when content creation is kind of like a became more easier, then it became kind of like a very much less good. Okay, yeah. So that I don't want that in my artifact should supposed to be kind of like that. So that's why I'm kind of like using this prevention and protection and things and that. But still, I do understand the reality would be much more brutal and much more like chaos and things and that. I might kind of like said so many stuff, but in reality, I might not gonna do that thing, because there is so many kind of like a factor responsible for that. Because right now there is no authority body in front of me. I am building the application. I will try to make sure, but when I build the application, when I have responsibility of millions and billions of people, I would not gonna do any kind of like a stupid shit. Okay, yeah. Even if this application actually mine, but still I cannot do that. But still my main purpose, main goal to kind of like actually make sure my platform is kind of like as much as better, as much as kind of like uplifting people to the better version of themselves. This is the things, because of this artifact it adds so much amount of value in me. Okay, yeah. I am the kind of like somebody, the living, breathing reason that why am I still exist and why am I kind of like building this application. Every possible good thing is actually happened in my life is because of artifact, and I do know what is actually happened if you record the artifact. So this is I want. Okay, yeah. So that's why I'm kind of like giving this kind of like a lot of precautionary steps and things and that to kind of like make sure my platform will not become spoiled. All right. So this is it. I should supposed to end here, and thank you.